Hi, I'm Amy. Welcome to my channel. I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself, who I am, my history with the spirit world, just to give you some insights into how I've gotten to where I am professionally. I wanted to make this really beautiful and professional, but I realized that that's just not me, so this is me, this is what you get. So anyway, in the interest of getting these videos up in a timely manner, I figure I'm just gonna look how I look, and that's that. So a little bit about myself. I am a psychic medium, and what this means is that I have not only abilities as a psychic, which I'm sure as most of you know, psychics read your own energies and can give you insights into your own life, but I'm also a medium as well, which means I can communicate with spirits beyond the grave. I first noticed that I had this ability, I would say, or the first time I can remember communicating with the spirit, I was 4 years old, and my family had just moved into a new house. That first night that I remember spending the night in the house, I was laying in my bed, and I was very, unfamiliar and uncomfortable with where I was. But as I was laying there trying to go to sleep, I suddenly saw, I felt something first, and it felt really strange to me. I was just like, I feel like someone's watching me. And then I kind of peeked my eyes open, and I saw across the room that it looked like an old woman to me. And actually she appeared almost like that stereotypical ghost that you would see like on television. She was a little translucent, she was a little monochromatic. So I wasn't sure at the time if I was making it up or if she was actually there. She was kind of just looking at me, and I tried to close my eyes and make it go away, and I tried to tell myself it was in my head, but every time I'd open my eyes, there she was. So finally I got the courage to just say, who are you and what do you want? And she showed me what looked like a tombstone in a way that I can only describe as like telepathy. It was like a feeling of communication with her. I got this sense that she was related to the previous owners of the home, that she had already passed away, and that she was giving her blessing with us being there, but definitely wanted the previous owners to know that, she was still with them. And of course, at 4 years old, I had no idea what to do with this. So I just kind of said, okay, thank you, goodbye. And that was my first experience. So, after that, I have pretty consistent memories of not only having interactions with spirits, but also practicing to figure out, what was happening with me, and trying to figure out the feelings and if I could control what was happening. So up until about, I want to say it was the age of 8 or 9, I think, is when, I pretty consistently had this regular relationship with spirit. Around the age of 5 or 6, there was some topic on television about kids and imaginary friends. And I remember that, my best friend at the time was talking about her imaginary friend that she had, and her friend would go to dinner with her, and they would play together after school, etc., etc. And I remember hearing that news report and hearing how, it was very common for kids to have these things. And I thought, I wonder if that's what's happening with me. I wonder if these are just imaginary friends. But then the logical part of me, and I was a thinker as a kid. So even at 5 years old, I'm thinking, well, if this was a friend of mine, then we would be playing and we would have a good time together. But that's not what was happening. This isn't your typical imaginary friend, because we're not friends. And also just having my best friend who had an imaginary friend and seeing how she played with her friend, I didn't have that. Side note, I do remember there was one time my friend and I were playing with her imaginary friend. We were having like a tea party, and she was like, oh, my friend is here. I forget her little friend's name, but let's just say it was like Chris or something. Oh, Chris is over here. Make sure you serve Chris the tea. And so, I've got the little tea set and we're playing, and I'm looking and I'm like, but I don't see Chris there. And there had been plenty of other times that we had been playing where I was very much aware of a spirit being there, but I was never interacting with them in the same level that we did with this imaginary friend, because for me, I just felt like it wasn't appropriate, or I was uncomfortable or something. Yeah, I was in 2nd grade, so I was 7. At recess, a couple of friends and I got to talking one day about ghosts. And this one friend said, oh, we should start a ghost club. And I thought this was the best thing ever, because I was like, finally, people who I can talk to about this stuff, who kind of know what I've been going through. We made a pact that every Tuesday or something like that. We were going to get together at recess and we were going to tell our stories of not only what ghosts have we interacted with, but what sort of investigating have we done. So I was super excited. So I remember shortly after this, I went to the library in the school and I was like, well, I'm going to see if there's any books that are written. And again, I'm an interesting, weird little kid. So I decided to let my intuition guide me to the book I needed to find. So I was wandering through this library aimlessly, kind of just feeling where I wanted to go. And I found myself in this section of books that was like for the 4th and 5th graders. It was above my reading level. But I was like, yeah, I think I need to go into these, bigger kid books. And I remember this librarian walking up to me and she was like, I think this book here might be something that you're looking for. And she points me to a book, I forget the title, but it was one of those like young adult type novels about ghost hunting. And so I was like, oh, okay, thanks. And then I was nervous about the book. I didn't know if I could check it out. So I went to ask her, because I'm so young, can I check this book out? But when I turned to ask her, she was gone. And that's when I realized, oh, that was a spirit who was helping me. That was not the librarian. She disappeared completely. I never saw her before or after that time. So I went to take this story to my friends. And I didn't quite get the story out because my friends at that point said, oh, this is all make-believe. It's all made up. Ghosts aren't real. People who believe it's real are crazy. And I'm pretty sure this was, parents telling them, your little ghost club is silly. So I didn't say anything. And then I figured they weren't going to believe me anyway. So I, around that time, really stopped telling people what my experiences were because I realized that people weren't accepting it. It had always been normal to me, and I never really realized how different my view of the world was until that moment. So I stopped talking about it, and I do have memories of, various spirits coming and speaking to me and me just saying, no, you can't be here. And I was shutting it down. So I really stopped seeing spirits and stopped communicating with them around 8 or 9. But what I never stopped doing was trying to work on my psychic abilities because I noticed so many times that I would have premonitions that would come true. Where I really noticed it was with lottery numbers. We would have the daily 3 that would show up on the news every day where they'd pick 3 numbers. And literally as they were picking the numbers, I would try to see, can I tell what number they're going to draw? And I think it had like a 70 or 80% accuracy rate on it. Like I could never pick it, a days in advance, but in that moment, right before they were drawing the numbers, I knew exactly which ones would be pulled. So it was a very useless skill to have if you're playing the lottery, but really fun way to test my skills. I also used to play with a deck of cards, and I used to play memory. I don't know if you ever played that game where you have to flip over 2 cards that match. I would lay them out and try to predict where the matching pair was. But with the deck of cards, I would try to predict what card I was going to flip over, and I literally would split it into piles of, I got this one totally right, I got this one totally wrong, or I got this one partially right. And partially right to me was like if I said it was the 4 of diamonds and it was the 4 of hearts. Well, I got the number and the color right, so it went in my kind of pile. And I would keep track of my accuracy. And I would try to feel when I got it right, I would try to notice what feelings I had within me if it felt different than if I got it wrong. It was a fun game that I used to play to keep myself entertained. So I would do that a lot growing up. I remember also when we'd have field trips to museums or we'd go to historical places, they always had this weird energy about them. And I actually, I was nervous about it at first, but then it became very familiar to me that when I'd go to certain places, there'd be this certain vibe about it. And later I, figured out that that vibe is kind of the history of the place. I used to think it was the feeling of, oh, this place is haunted, because usually I would be able to connect with some sort of spirit energy when I was there. But it wasn't necessarily a haunting. It was just that there's a lot of history and residual energy to those places or the objects within them. And I could have a feeling related to that. And that feeling over time, I learned how to work with it. In my life, I don't really have a lot of significant memories through like middle school related to my spirituality. I was the kid that had the Ouija board, and I used to play with that a lot. And actually, I was playing with another very good friend of mine, and we noticed that every time we played it, we had the same spirit who came and talked to us. And I do remember there was one day we were playing, and we said, "Can you use the pointer and tell us where you are in the room?" And the pointer pointed to a corner of the room, and then spelled something out that basically said, "I look like a ball of light," or "I look like a beam of light where there shouldn't be one." And so I remember looking, and I remember seeing this light that shouldn't have been there. And then I remember seeing an outline of a figure. And I didn't tell my friend that I saw the outline of the figure, but it was one of my first reintroductions to spirit. I think it was around 15 years old, 15 or 16. I started to have more experiences. I would have, weird things that would happen. I would see people, noises being made. I would hear my name being called at times. So little things started to happen again. And around that time, my friends were also talking about spiritual gifts and things like that. And I realized, okay, people are curious about it, but still not totally accepting of it. So when I went to college, that was when things really opened up for me. I had a spirit who was visiting me regularly in my apartment, and I was really annoyed because he would only show up when no one else was there, when it was just me. So I finally got to the point where I was able to convince the spirit to show up when my friends were with me, just so they could validate what I was experiencing. And I had pretty open communication with the spirit. He told me his name, where he was from, when he died, how he died. He went to the same school as me. I wrote all this information down. He died in 1929. I remember taking this information, we went into the archives of the school, found an old yearbook from that time, and actually found this spirit. I also did some research on the internet and was able to verify his family name and where he said he came from. Did a little genealogy thing. So I definitely was like, okay, this is legit. I studied abroad in college. I went to Scotland, studied at the University of Edinburgh. And that is where things really changed for me, because I was seeing spirits left and right every single day. Usually was not bothered by them at all. But there were times where I would try to communicate and would have varying levels of success. But I definitely realized there that I can't ignore this anymore. That is around the time where I was introduced to friends who were much more well-versed in the paranormal than I was. So friends who had been working with tarot cards for years, who understood how to work with the spirit. And so they really opened my eyes up to really exploring this more. And I would say from that point on, I kind of have just had a regular relationship with the spirit world. So it was around when I was 24, 25, I actually told my friends, by the way, I can see spirits. And at the time I said I can see ghosts, because I didn't know better. That's what I thought I was seeing. But I could see spirits. And my friends were completely supportive of me. And I give them 100% of the credit for me even being where I am now, because they were so excited about this. Everywhere we went, when we'd go someplace and I'd get that feeling that I used to have when I was a kid, when I'd go to, historical places, I'd be like, oh, that feeling is here. So I would feel into it and I'd go, okay, there's this spirit that's here and they used to be connected to this place in this way. And my friends would be like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then they would tell everyone they could tell in the space that we were in. So it was about 3-4 years after that, I think, I went to a paranormal conference, the Conscious Life Expo. I went there because Lisa Williams was going to be there. She had a television show and she was a medium, and I always admired her, and the way that she worked and her level of detail was amazing to me. So she was going to be there. She was going to be doing a presentation, so I really wanted to go. I also had been considering developing my skills. And I had found that Lisa was going to be offering classes where she was going to certify mediums and do this advanced mediumship course. And I was like, this is it. This is my opportunity. But I knew that I wasn't working in the way that other mediums were. I didn't have what Lisa does, which is, she sits and she connects to a loved one that you're looking for and gives you messages. At that point, my experience was just randomly here and there. Oh, look, there's a spirit, there's a spirit, there's a spirit. I thought I was communicating with ghosts. So I was like, well, my experience is very, very different. So my friends convinced me just apply anyway. I was filling out the application, went to this conference, and in this conference, the night before we were going to see Lisa, we went to this, I think it was like a Delta Wave meditation class. It was a guided meditation, so they were telling us to do this, do that, etc. I got really bored at the pace they were going, so I just decided to do my own thing. So in this meditation, I ended up connecting with my spirit guide, and I had already been introduced to my spirit guide by then. My main guide, he was like, hey, I want to introduce you to someone, and he introduced me to another guide who I'd been vaguely aware of for years but never really knew. And this guide walked in and said, I'm here to take your mediumship to the next level if you're ready for that. He said, I'm here to teach you how to take yourself from where you are to where you want to be. But I'll only do that if you agree that this is what you want for your life and you agree to dedicate your life to pursuing this ability and connecting spirits to their loved ones. I was just like, yes, I'm ready for this. And immediately he took me into this realm of the spirit world that I had never experienced before and was like, I'm going to teach you how your energy can meet the energy of the spirit world and you can have these conversations. And he was like, I'm putting you in boot camp and we are going to do this pretty nonstop. So from that moment, I realized everything was different. I made so much progress in my communication. I decided I can't apply for Lisa's class in the way that I've been doing. Maybe I shouldn't apply at all because everything suddenly changed. So next day we were going to go to Lisa's show. So we did. We went and saw her show, and then she said she was going to be signing autographs later on. And my friends had never seen her before, so they really enjoyed her demonstration, and they wanted to go buy, I think she had like a meditation CD or something, so they wanted to go buy it. And we're standing in line, and I said, you guys, I don't know if I should tell her that I'm applying for her class or like what happened or any of that stuff. And they were like, you totally should. I kind of didn't want to say anything, but we got up to her in line and she was just like, oh my God, I saw you three in the audience. You were just awesome. Your energy was great. It was so nice to have people like you there. And we were like, thank you so much. And then of course my friends were like, hey, she's applying for your class that you're doing. So Lisa looks at me and I'm like, oh God. And she goes, really? She goes, have you turned in your application? I said, well, no, I've been filling it out, but I kind of need to change the whole thing because I had a moment with my spirit guide last night and my abilities are just kind of changing right now. So I want to make sure that I give it the attention it needs. And she goes, okay. And she gives me this look, and I could tell it was like this assessing kind of look. And she goes, when you turn in your application, write down on the application that you met me here, and then I'll make sure you get in. Because the way she was offering this course is you had to apply, and then she was going to psychically read each person and as well as look at their application to determine if this was the right course for them, if they should be allowed in. I was really nervous about it because, like I said, everything had just changed, but it was validating for me to have that feedback from her to say, you know what, just write on there that you met me here and I'll let you in. Because she did her assessment in that moment and saw something. But I do give her credit to this day, love her to this day for that class, because what happened is the 3 weeks from when I saw her to when the class started, I was in boot camp with my spirit guide. Every single day, I would enter meditation with my guide. My guide would give me a lesson and then give me some sort of practice. And I swore off of television, internet, email, music, radio, all of that. Like, I didn't have any distractions in my life. I would go to work. I could do whatever I needed at work. But when I came home, it was me and the spirit world working every day, no time off, all the way up until the class. So by the time I went to this class, or we had our lectures, I felt like I had a really solid foundation and I could just go up from there. And what was fantastic is what Lisa taught in that class was all things that the spirit world had already taught me. So for me, it was incredibly validating to know that my experiences were real, and that's really how the spirit world works. You know, I wasn't making any of this up. So from that point on, I did the class with Lisa. It was, I forget how many months. It was a pretty long, intensive course. I became certified as a medium with her, and I started professionally from that moment on. I started doing professional mediumship readings from that moment on, and now here we are today. Things have never stopped for me. The relationship with the spirit world is always changing. There's always something to learn. There's always room for growth. There are a million experiences that we have in our lives. So in communication with spirits and them talking about their lives, it's like reading a biography every day. It's getting to know somebody and all of the crazy things that have gone on in their lives. And so that for me is amazing. But in order to receive that information, you've got to continue to practice and hone your gifts. So I feel very blessed that I have met amazing mediums through my experiences. Through Lisa's course, I met a medium who's become one of my very best friends, and we work together a lot. We take classes a lot. She was far more versed than I was at the time of the mediumship community. She really introduced me to world-class teachers, and now I'm training with literally the best mediums in the world as my mentors. And having them tell me that, oh my gosh, if you keep working, you will be the best in the world. Oh, what? It's like mind-blowing. So I feel very grateful to be where I am. And I'm to the point now where I love doing my sittings with my clients, and I really want to reach as many people as I can. So it's one of the reasons I've started this YouTube channel, is I really want to be able to share not only my experiences, but also some of the knowledge that I've gained, so that as many people as possible can be touched by the spirit world and by their own greater spiritual connection, because we all have that connection to the spirit realm where we come from, and it's just a matter of your own abilities to tap into that and to access it. And I feel that we all have that if we are willing to put in the work. So I'm hoping that I will be uploading quite a few videos to the channel. I have a lot of them planned already. It's just a matter of when I will be doing it. So keep your eyes peeled, tell your friends about it, and hopefully you've enjoyed this little narration into where I've come from. I love questions, so if you have any questions, put them below in the comments. I will definitely look at them. If you want to know more about how to develop your own gifts, keep an eye on the channel, but also take a look on my website, because I do offer classes every now and then where I will teach various ways of developing your own gifts. So all that said, thank you so much for indulging in my story, and hopefully you've enjoyed it, and keep your eyes peeled. All right, thanks.